basically, for our 1.0 update, for coming out of what we were considering us coming out of open beta, the game is totally changing in a number of massive ways. The first thing, most obviously, is our UI. Our UI is completely different. We've moved everything off the top bar here, except for like a few elements, and everything else is now on the left-hand side in a much cleaner format. It's easier to read, and it's not as cluttered.
Yeah, I remember the user interface completely different.
Yeah. And it was, clutter to me was the key word, right? Because there was a lot of things that were just constantly getting in your way. It was UI that wasn't really helping you play the game. So for instance, like our social elements now have all been moved to the bottom of the screen. So your friends list, you can see who's online, who's offline, message center, game invites and other messages that you receive. Exactly. If someone sends you a chat, that's going to pop up down here now. You can minimize it, and then if they continue talking to you, you'll see a flash, just like any messaging program, right? We just really wanted to make it still very functional communication system, functional social system, while at the same time not making it something that's constantly in your face and and getting in your way. We've added parties to the game. That's a huge thing for us because playing Hawken with your friends is a really big thing for a lot of our players. I personally am very much of a social gamer. I like to play with my friends, and so without parties that was really hard to do. Like, okay, let's all find a server. Okay, I found a server, it's got space. Okay, everybody join. Oh, I didn't make it in. Damn.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
Yeah, exactly, right? We want to get away from that. So with the party system, matchmaking takes your party into account. You invite your friends to your party, you go and you join a server, and your whole party gets taken with you. And as you go from server to server, your party stays together.
That's nice.
It makes it a lot easier to play with your friends. The next major thing is obviously, the garage. So the mechs themselves have been steadily changing because, as we've been adding functionality to the game, but now the way that you interact with your mechs is also changing as well. So as you see here, we have a number of elements that I can interact with when I'm looking at any given mech. This basically represents the customization of the mech. So before you had the skill trees, right? And the skill trees were basically you would level up a mech and then you would get points and you would use those points to put it in like the offense tree or the defense tree or the functional tree, which really came down to attack power, defense, and speed. Now what we've done is we've created what we're calling the tuning modification system. So as you play the game, you have a pilot level that you will increase through gaining experience. And that pilot level gives you modification points and access to new mechs. These tuning points can be used to increase specific parameters of your mech, right? So there are certain things that are common to every mech. The weapons loader, which is basically your firing rate, like how fast the weapon fires. Heat sinks, which would be heat generation, and then armor. But each mech also has 4 unique elements that only that mech has. So for instance, the Bruiser has an element called a tuning element called aerodynamics. You can actually increase your flight speed, you can increase the speed, the height at which it can fly at, and you can increase your acceleration in the air. So it makes the Bruiser a very effective mech in air combat, right? Before this update, air combat really didn't exist in Hawken. Like it did, you could jump in the air and you could hover around, but that basically turned you into a target because you couldn't really move very fast once you were in the air. It was kind of like I'm getting over something, or someone's coming at me really fast and I jump over them. Now air combat is becoming a reality. We always thought air combat was a lot of fun. We wanted to make it a lot more purposeful part of the game, right? So certain mechs will have the ability to be tuned to be more effective in air combat, like the Bruiser. You also see here these locked columns. Those represent the rank of your mech. So in addition to having pilot level, each mech has a number of ranks that they go through. So as you play that mech, you unlock new ranks. And I'll get into the specifics of that later, but for the purpose of the tuning, as you rank up higher and higher, you can add more points to specific things. So you can continue to tune that mech to be better and better. There's a limited number of tuning points, so you can't max out everything. You have to choose what you want to tune out. Yeah. But depending on how you like to play, maybe you don't like to play in the air. Maybe you don't like air combat, so you're not gonna put points in that. But you like the overheat recovery time. You find yourself overheating a lot because you use your weapons a little bit too much, so you can put points into that and decrease the amount of time you spend in the overheat condition.
And talking about these ranks and related to the balancing of the game, will you be able to play with other players that only have, they just got the mech,
right,
while you have everything unlocked?
So that's where pilot level comes into play.
Okay.
Since pilot level controls how many points you have, pilot level also controls what access you have to certain equipment. So you can get more and more powerful versions of items and internals, but you can only get access to those as your pilot level increases. So when matchmaking occurs, we take your pilot level into consideration. So you're only going to be matched against people that are of similar pilot level. That way, you could have, for instance, as an example, I could have this bruiser and max out the rank, right? But your first mech, all the way maxed out, is not enough experience to get you to the max pilot level. That's going to take a long time. So you would only be able to put so many points in there, and you'll continue to be able to put more points in as you increase your pilot level. So yeah, you'd only be put up against other players that have a similar amount of points to use and a similar level of equipment to use. So essentially it keeps things balanced by putting a hard cap on what they have available to them. Excuse me. So, Mark, could you grab me a cough drop out of the... Muy molestoso. Cada 5 segundos estoy tos. Yeah, in the back pocket. No, I'm sorry. That back pocket. Yeah.
The other one.
Yeah, the other back pocket. Thank you. So let's get into the mech ranking itself. So I told you about the mech rank system. The mech rank system basically controls, as you gain experience for mech, you see here you'll gain access to unlocks. So for instance, right off the bat, I can purchase this upgrade to my damage absorbability so that it's 20% more effective. So what that means is it's an additional 20% of damage absorption, which is really awesome. I'll also get access to new weapons. So you see up here, once I get to the rank 3, I'll have access to the assault rifle. In addition, you also get access to elite parts. That's actually going to change the way that your mech looks, so that by the time you get to the end of the progression, when you've leveled that mech up, it looks like a different mech. It looks a lot more, it's got more parts on it, it's got a special skin on it, it looks just really badass, We want people to be able to differentiate between a lower level mech and then a maxed out mech.
And when you see it, you're like, oh shit.
I know that guy's not a beginner. Yeah.
Can you show this?
Yes. I can show you a couple. So I'll start with this guy here. This is the Reaper. So now I'm changing over to his elite skin. So you can see he's got more parts coming off of him. They're bigger, they're thicker. And then he gets that chassis off the top. So you can see that
which does nothing, but it's super cool.
Yeah, exactly. It just looks awesome. And that's really what it comes down to. We've also got some elite skins. So you see, our skins before were just camo, right? But now we've within the way that we've added some upgrades to our system that allow us to actually do really awesome print graphics on the mechs, and you get these really cool elite-looking mechs. Those will be available for media credits. You can purchase those and continue to customize your mech. Let's get into items and internals. So a really big change is the way that items and internals are treated. Before you had 3 items that you could equip, right? You had your offensive item, your defensive item, and then your functional item. And then we shrank it down to just an offensive and a support item. Now we've changed over for both internals and items to a slot system. What that allows us to do is it allows us to basically give the player control of, if you want to have just offensive items, you can have just offensive items. You just have to be able to make it fit within the number of slots that you can give it. And like I explained before, as the pilot level increases, I get access to more and more powerful items, right? So this is the MG Turret Mark III. That is the max power version of the machine gun turret, but it's also a 4-slot item. So there's a choice for the player, right? You know, like if I want to have a lot of options, then I can just pick, you know, 3 of the 2-slot items, or you know, maybe a 2-slot item, a 3-slot item, and then the item regenerator, which is only, you know, that just makes my items regenerate faster. Or if I'm really all about turrets, you know, or one of these other more powerful items, depending on my playstyle, I can have that and like another item. So it allows me to choose like how I want to set up my mech. The same thing goes for internals, except that internals are way different now. Before, internals were just an increase to stats, right? Like faster walking speed, but at the cost of X or Y or Z, right? Or increased armor, but decreased movement speed, or increased weapon damage, but increased heat generation too. We wanted to move away from that. We wanted to make internals more about like changing what your mech does. So now we've added, for instance, the Air 180. You equip this onto your mech can actually do a 180 in the air. The air compressor allows your mech to dodge in the air. So if you're in the air, you can dodge left or right and do a 180. Like you get that mobility back. Like if you like to fight in the air, if you find yourself jumping a lot and being in the air,
so you can be really good at it, but you have to do the skills and the modules and all this stuff.
Exactly. But maybe I don't really like to do that kind of stuff. You know, maybe I find myself, you know, the failsafe decreases self-damage by 60%. If I'm a guy that likes close quarter combat a lot and I'm constantly getting hit by my own tow missile, that's an awesome item to have. You know, convert 2% of damage taken into fuel. If you're running away and someone's shooting at you, you're getting fuel back so you can continue to run away, right? It really changes how you play the game, right? Like if you like to be like very hit and run in your tactics, like you can find internals in here that will support that kind of gameplay. If you like to fight in the air, or if you like to be up close and personal, you know, however you like to fight, the internals will help you customize your mech, regardless of what type of mech it is, to do that. And these are just scratching the surface, right? Like we're going to continue to add more internals, to add more functionality, right? And just continue to change the game so that when you put these on your mech, like it's a different mech. And again, it all comes down to what do I want to do? Like, if I want to put this guy on, it's a really powerful internal, but it's 3 slots, so I'll only have 3 slots once I'm done. So, let's see here.
They are very unique modules.
Yes.
Very, very original.
Yeah. So yeah, for instance, after being out of combat for 10 seconds, the mech generates 25 armor per second. That's huge. You know, you don't have to repair anymore. You can just be walking around and still be getting armor back. So let's do, yeah. Also new, VR training, offline team deathmatch, and co-op bot training. VR training is our upgrade to the tutorial. The tutorial before was like, it showed you the basics, but it skipped over a lot of things. This VR training allows you to go over everything. It will teach you everything you need to know about how mechs move, how to use special items and abilities, when to use them, what to use. It's really all about teaching the player what they need to know to be successful at the game. Although Hawken is an FPS, there's a lot of elements to Hawken that aren't necessarily native to FPS players, right? Like dodging, for instance. It seems simple, but I mean, think of another FPS where you can strafe left or right really quickly. You know. Offline team deathmatch. This is our first offline game mode. You can play this without a connection to the internet. So if you are feeling like playing some Hawken, but you don't really want to get online, your friends aren't online, you just kind of want to play by yourself, offline team deathmatch allows you to get into a game with some bot friends. We'll give you some bot friends, and then you can play against other bot mechs in a team deathmatch. It allows you to like practice your skills. Our AI will get better or worse depending on how good you are. So it scales with your difficulty. So you're not just playing against like standing targets. Like they'll fight back and they'll get really good. Co-op bot training is really exciting. We're very excited about that. It's our first cooperative game mode. So it's a 4-player game mode that allows you to fight against oncoming, continually increasingly difficult waves of enemies. It starts off with like small drones, and then enemy mechs show up. There's bosses that will show up every now and then that are like really powerful, and if you can get all the way to the end, then you get you can earn XP and Hawken credits by playing this with your friends. So if you don't like competitive multiplayer, you can play co-op with your friends. That's really huge. There's a lot of people that love Hawken but aren't necessarily into competitive multiplayer. So we want to open that kind of gameplay up. I think it's something that's kind of a failing of major online FPSs these days, is they just assume that everyone wants to play competitively, right? And that's not true. Like, a lot of people like FPSs, but they don't necessarily want to have to be getting railed on by like super competitive guys and like getting yelled at, and they just want to play with their friends and have fun. So we're opening up to that. This is just the start. We have other ideas and plans for cooperative game modes. Last thing I want to show you is we'll just get into a game mode here. I want to show you the new heads-up display for the mechs. We've cleaned it up a lot. We've moved around a lot of very critical information so that it makes more sense to the player. It's easier to read. So I'll start here with the bruiser.
Even this screen has changed a lot.
Yeah, everything. You can see here, like you can even see up here, these icons represent different mechs, right? So you can see who's playing as what. Before you jump in, you can be like, oh, well, they have a bunch of technicians already, so I'm not going to play my technician. So the first thing that you're going to see, we've moved your life to a bar now. So you still have the number, but there's a bar. It's a lot easier to read.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to read. You also have your fuel gauge down there as well. There's another example of our late skins, and he's doing a little animation there. These are some of our German players. They're helping us out right now, filling servers. You can see that the heads-up display here, the reticle has changed. It's a little bit cleaner. As I'm firing, you can see the gauge showing me my weapon heat.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's my lock-on showing up. And then, like I said before, as I do a dodge, I can see how much fuel it takes up, and then I can see, cool down. The really important thing is items and your special ability are a lot easier to read now. So, for instance, my special ability there, like I can see immediately when I use it, I get that flash, I get a timer showing me how much time I have left, and then once the timer's done, boom, I can see how much my cooldown is, and it's very clear to the player, like big text. Same thing as I use my items here, so I'll just come over here. And let's go this way. Drop a turret right here. So now I can see, that slot goes down, letting me know I've used that item. And even the life bars for mechs, they change.
I feel that the dodges are like faster and maybe for a longer space. It's different. The feeling is different.
Yes.
Everything is different.
Yes. That's what we were going for. We really wanted.
It's definitely not the same, right?
Yeah, and that's what we wanted. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, since everything is different, what game modes do you have currently? A new one?
Team deathmatch, siege, and missile assault, which is basically like a domination mode.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
What's going to go with the mothership, right?
Yes. Siege had like the giant battleship, and you'd have to fight against it.
I remember that.